And for that, we've been joined by Dr. Muqtadir Khan, who's Professor of International Relations at the University of Delaware. Thank you, Dr. Muqtadir, for joining us today. I'd like your take first in terms of how you see these particular developments when we talk about the peace plan. There is a lot that has been put forward by the U.S. administration and its influence, and of course other key players including Qatar, Turkey and other countries that have played their own role in ensuring that this happens. But in terms of the success that it entails, how do you take a look at what this would mean then as to what Gaza's future will be and what the Middle Eastern future will look like?
Thank you for having me. I think the biggest relief is that aid will now flow into Gaza. So besides the fact that there was genocidal violence on the people of Gaza, there was also starvation taking place and children were dying of hunger, which was very painful and troubling to watch. So for me, the biggest relief is that as soon as the two sides signed it and the Israeli Security Cabinet approved the deal, now about 600 trucks per day are going to enter Gaza with additional aid, and hopefully that should essentially mitigate the suffering of the people of Gaza. So I think the best thing that has come out of this is that there is aid that is going to flow endlessly, unlimited aid. That is how President Trump defined it. But let's be optimistic about it. The phase one has been approved, which is soon, hopefully by Monday, Hamas will release the 20 hostages who are still alive, and then the Israel has already started withdrawing apparently. But the negotiations for the second phase are going to be very difficult because one of the conditions is that Hamas has to fully disarm, and essentially it will cease to exist. It will not only have no military presence, but its entire network of assets such as tunnels, etc., will be eventually destroyed, and it will have no say in the governance of Gaza. So that must be a very difficult pill for Hamas to swallow. So we will see what happens with the second phase negotiations, but let's hope that the first phase goes through. In the long term, I think that it's going to be an entirely different Middle East if this comes through, because assuming that Hamas does disarm itself and assuming that there is a technocratic government in place with somebody like Tony Blair and Donald Trump in charge of Gaza, this is in a way direct colonization by Western countries. So there will be a period in which Gaza now will be ruled by US and UK. And I don't know how that is going to go. That does not mean that other Palestinian groups may not emerge. Does not dismantle Islamic Jihad. So we will see what happens going forward and what role the Arab countries play. For Pakistan, this is an opportunity if it wants to play a role in the Middle East, because one of the things that is going to happen is the establishment of what is called as the International Stabilization Force. And I think while the Gulf countries are willing to provide billions of dollars, the estimate for reconstruction of Gaza is $53 billion. So maybe $10-20 billion will come from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. But are they going to put boots on the ground? And that's where the role of, I think, non-Arab countries like Turkey and Pakistan will come in, and maybe there will be an opportunity or pressure for these countries to provide to the ISF. And then obviously Donald Trump will try to expand the Abrahamic Accords. He's calling for Iran also to sign in up. And I think there will be informally a lot of pressure on Pakistan also, if it plays a role in the Middle East, to sign up on the Abrahamic Accords, if all goes well. But ultimately, this plan has no plan for a two-state solution. There's nothing there. And there's no timeline for that. And plus, there is nothing in this plan which stops the violence in West Bank, the expansion of settlements in West Bank. So it is quite possible, God forbid, but it's possible that the violence may just relocate itself to the West Bank while Gaza is under United States and Tony Blair's governance.
Very essential aspects, Dr. Khan, and I want to explore a little bit further, especially when we take a look about where in all of this is going to be the will and the representation of the people of Palestine, and where is the free Palestine that everyone has been demanding. And so when we take a look at bodies that are responsible for ensuring that there is peace and that there are rights that people have been asking for, that they're given to them, and there are international laws and values in place. How do you see the involvement of bodies like the United Nations that have also declared it to be a genocide deal with the certain situations and dynamics that are evolving, not just in terms of what needs to be put in place, especially in terms of who is it that will be calling the shots, as you talked about, how they're going to be external representations of world leaders and countries from the UK or the US. Why can it not be a more neutral body or structure that does that? And then how exactly will that be ensured that there is accountability of what has happened? Because of course right now we all want this to stop and of course the suffering to end and aid to reach the people of Gaza. But what about what happened in the past 2 years? Who's going to hold Israel and Netanyahu responsible for the crimes that he has committed?
Sana, that's the critical point. Gaza is not only a site of devastation, but it's a crime scene. So we need human rights organizations to go in there as soon as possible and start documenting the genocide that took place. And this is something that under Tony Blair, Tony Blair is there to cover up, basically. He's going to try and minimize and hide the crimes against humanity, crimes against the people of Gaza that the Israeli army has committed there. So yes, we need to have human rights organizations there documenting this systematically, even if not to hold accountable, but at least to tell the story of what happened here to future generations. And that is one thing. But let's not assume that this thing is going to go through smoothly. For example, where is Donald Trump going to find the technocratic people who are also from Gaza and have no connections to Hamas? So is he going to go to West Bank and recruit people from West Bank who are Palestinians to go there? Or is it going to be just packed with people from Jared Kushner's company who are going to be running Gaza? So the next step, of course, the biggest hurdle is of Hamas, whether it disarms or not. And I think Netanyahu is hoping that Hamas refuses to disarm fully, then it will allow him to continue with the war in some way or the other. And the deep withdrawals are also not complete. Like after the first phase, Israel will still occupy 53% of Gaza. After the second phase, it will still be occupying 45% of Gaza. And then towards the end, it will still have a buffer zone which occupies 15% of Gaza. And that is going to be very dangerous because that is going to instigate some young Palestinians to take action. But you are right very much that there has to be some accountability. And I think there are private assurances being given to Netanyahu and others that there will be no accountability if this war stops. And let me tell you that while the Western countries have, in the past few weeks, stood up and given some lip service sort of sanctions to Smotrich and Ben Gavir, the two really right-wing extremist ministers in Netanyahu's cabinet, and some threats to ban Israel from various cultural events. But once this war stops, it will be just a matter of time that everything will be forgotten in the West, and Israel will be back again as it was before this genocide began. And that is where the role of human rights activists, people who speak truth to power, they must not take their eye off the ball. And of course, we will see what role the Arab countries play, whether they are going to be happy that the fighting has stopped and there will be no progress and demands towards establishing a Palestinian state in the borders that it has been imagined in the past, 1967 borders. So those are big issues, but fortunately, there's more recognition of the Palestinian state. So it becomes a bit more difficult for Israel to erase the Palestinian state. And additionally, Israel has lost a lot of goodwill in the United States, which is critical, absolutely critical for Israel to maintain its dominance in the Middle East. And we will see most Muslim countries, especially Arab countries, have realized now that they cannot entirely rely on the United States to protect them, especially after Israel attacked Qatar. So they are looking to diversify. Saudi Arabia turned to Pakistan to establish a defense tie. So hopefully there will be more understanding that, look, we signed up the Abrahamic Accords, we got nothing for it. We got bombed. The Gulf was bombed by Israel. So we will see what happens going forward. But the two or three things are positives that we must not forget. One, that because of this deal, there is no ethnic cleansing of Gazans taking place by force. They may choose to leave because life is absolutely unlivable at the moment in Gaza. And if there is delays in reconstruction, then life is going to be impossible there. I hope aid really, really comes in, and at least, as we get closer to winter, there's shelter also generated. So one good thing that has happened is there is no ethnic cleansing. Number two, the Israeli occupation is ending. Number three is aid is being provided. There's no discussion of democracy or self-governance in Donald Trump's plan. That word doesn't occur. So how long will this team chosen, I think, by Tony Blair, probably Tony Blair, Jared Kushner, and Steve Witkoff probably will be playing a role in collaboration with Egypt, Jordan, and Qatar in selecting people who will govern Gaza. How long is that going to go? Is there a timeline to have an election in Gaza? Or like, I don't know how that is going to happen. And is there any chance of integrating Gaza with West Bank? One of the reasons why there was no progress, at least in terms of official Western discourse, was because West Bank and Gaza were not united. So there was no partner for Israel to make a deal with. Will we have a partner now for peace? So those are big questions that need to be addressed.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Muqtada Khan, for joining us and being a part of the debate and sharing your views. It's absolutely essential for us to remember these aspects because they are what will require for us to move forward for true peace in Palestine. Thank you for joining us.